fucks.
We're back.
We're back with more history shit.
Another kind of longer form video. We're going to break up into 2 parts here.
Yep.
So
make sure to check out part 2. It'll be down in the description below. Also,
this is a crazy story. One of the craziest stories in American history, I think, when it comes to fucking any kind of robberies or whatnot. And the fact that it was never solved, obviously, just makes it so much crazier.
You want to know another big-ass robbery? The robbery that we're not at fucking 1,000 subscribers already.
Oh.
I still don't believe you guys can do it. It's fucking highway robbery. We're giving you guys millions of hours of content. We're killing it right now.
Billions of hours.
2 fucking channels.
We guys record 30 hours a day.
Yeah, you guys are fucking killing it right now. Thank you guys so much for all the love. Because I do want to say thank you. I do want to rib you guys and have some fun with you. But thank you. You guys have absolutely been fantastic. It's been fantastic that everything's doing things the way that we thought they would.
It's great. We get shitloads of engagement on the podcast themselves, the song reactions, the longer reactions like this. I love it all.
But we wanted to break into some more history stuff, obviously, because both of us are history buffs. And I found this channel a little bit ago on a different React channel, vlogging through history. Was talking to him about possibly him coming on the podcast, and ghosted us. But I like this fucking video. I've seen this once. I didn't know the story, and I still don't fully kind of grasp all the details, but this shit was beautiful. I wanted to watch it again, so.
By the end of this, you will firmly grasp it. It's okay.
Firmly grasp it! Oh, I pressed back. I'm
God
bad.
Damn it, Zachary.
Fucking Andrew Tate. God damn it. Now I gotta put it in the title. Andrew Tate stole the video.
No clickbait. No. The fans won't have it.
He was actually here, damn it.
This is some movie level shit. Like, I didn't believe this was real when I first heard of it.
A search was made of the plane immediately. We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went. I expect that we'll keep looking until we find him or find out what happened.
I do want to say this dude's fucking art and fucking shit is next fucking
What
level.
a sick intro. I fucking love that.
I can't wait for people to see the intro that's going live for the first time tonight. That shit's gonna be fucking exciting.
I love it.
I can't fucking wait, man. Like, stupid little shit like that just gets me so amped, and that shit just reinvigorated that fucking fire. The search for D.B Cooper.
In the afternoon of November the 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man carrying a briefcase walked into Portland International Airport and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington. The man identified himself as Dan Cooper, and along with 36 other passengers and a crew of 6, he soon boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 305. Once aboard, Cooper made himself comfortable in the middle of the last row of seats on the right side of the cabin. He ordered a drink and had a smoke, because this was the 70s. Once the flight was cleared for departure, Cooper turned around and handed an envelope to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. Inside the envelope was a note featuring a handwritten message stating he had a bomb. Schaffner reluctantly sat down beside him and glimpsed what appeared to be 8 sticks of dynamite inside his briefcase. Cooper's demands were quite simple. He wanted $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. He also demanded a fuel truck to stand ready to refuel the aircraft once they landed in Seattle. Should they fail to comply with his demands, he threatened to, quote, do the job. Once the flight was airborne, Schaffner went to inform the cockpit crew, while another flight attendant by the name of Tina Mucklow remained by Cooper's side. By using a telephone in the rear of the cabin, Mucklow acted as an intermediary between Cooper and the rest of the flight crew for the remainder of the hijacking. For the next hour and a half, Flight 305 maintained a holding pattern near Seattle, while local and federal authorities scrambled to procure the ransom as well as the 4 parachutes. 10,000 $20 bills were collected from a local bank, while the owner of a nearby skydiving school supplied the chutes. At 5:45 p.m., more than 2 hours past its scheduled arrival, Flight 305 finally touched down in Seattle. By this point, it was well after sunset, and the aircraft was brought to a remote section of the tarmac. Once the flight came to a stop, both the ransom and the parachutes were handed over to Mucklow, who then brought them back aboard. In exchange, Cooper permitted 2 of the flight attendants as well as all the passengers to disembark, many of whom had not yet realized the flight had been hijacked. With the ransom paid and only 4 crew members remaining on board,
If this happened now, and he allowed all of the people to get off the plane, that would have been.
They
stormed.
wouldn't let that
Yeah.
shit take back off. Like, no.
It would have been done right there. There is nothing else that happens now. Story over. Done.
See, this briefly touched on something that I had never heard about the story, and that was whether or not any of the passengers knew what was happening while they were still in the air, flying over the airport itself for like those almost 2 extra hours they were in the sky.
Like, I would have paid attention to that. Because I don't know if you've ever been on a plane, but I've been on a plane going to Salt Lake City, and we did those circles for a good 20 minutes. You feel it.
Oh yeah, it's normal to do like maybe 2, even 3 laps of an airport and holding just to wait for runways and taxiways to clear up, but 2 hours is something else. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's pretty drastic when you feel it too, because it's a 180-degree turn, man. Like, it's not.
Yeah, those are typically in a regular flight. Those are the
You're
steepest
like
turns
this.
that you will make are in holding patterns.
Yeah, you're completely fucking vertical almost in that fucking turn with the damn airplane. Like, there's no way in hell they didn't know. But it's weird. It's weird that he's saying they
Cooper
didn't.
told Mucklow to inform the captain that he wanted to fly to Mexico City. They were to fly with the landing gear down, the flaps at 15 degrees and below 10,000 feet. The lights in the cabin were to be switched off, and the aft stairway, which opens from the underbelly of the fuselage, was to remain extended. 2 of Cooper's demands could not be satisfied. First of all, the flight configuration he'd requested would not allow for a non-stop flight to Mexico City. As such, Cooper proposed a refueling stop in Phoenix, Yuma, or Sacramento before they all agreed on Reno, Nevada. Second of all, it was not possible to depart with the ventral staircase extended. Cooper agreed to retract the stairs on the condition that Mucklow remained by his side and taught him how to extend them once the plane was airborne. Parked for nearly 2 hours due to complications with refueling, Flight 305 was back in the air by 7:36 p.m. Less than 5 minutes after takeoff, Cooper told Mucklow to head for the cockpit and that from this point onwards he was not to be disturbed. The last time she saw Cooper, he was standing in the middle of the aisle as if though he was preparing to jump. Mucklow joined the rest of the crew, locked the cockpit door behind her, and some 3 hours later, Flight 305 safely landed in Reno. Once the flight came to a stop, the crew carefully ventured into the rear of the cabin, but there was no sign of Cooper nor the bomb. The aft
Motherfucker was
stairway had been
gone.
extended mid-flight and was slightly damaged upon landing. It seemed there was only one explanation for the hijacker's absence. At some point between Seattle and Reno, Cooper had strapped on a parachute, walked down the stairs, and leaped into the dark of night.
I wonder how the Coriolis effect would affect that. Like, if you jumped out, would you sway to the left or the right? That would probably depend on the wind and stuff. But obviously, any path that you have at that point would be curved. So how far he traveled and which way he went would be completely dependent on the weather and stuff at that point. Obviously,
Right? 'Cause
they never
it
found
was in
him,
the middle
so-
of the night. No, they don't know when he pulled his chute. If he pulled his chute, like, literally was never found, so
But the
it
fact
could have not worked at all.
the
Fuck
fact he
knows.
did this for $200,000 is nuts.
Well, that was a lot of money back then. You got to think 1971. That's enough to buy a fucking neighborhood, let alone a house.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know.
it's a
nuts.
lot of money back then. I wonder what that would be adjusted for inflation.
I don't know. Inflation right now is what, 10%, 12%? Just this one year. Isn't normal inflation like 6 or 7%?
Okay. 200K in 1971 would be about 1.27 million nowadays. So that's
That's not
That's
that
a lot.
much.
no, considering what he did, like fucking affecting a flight like this and forcing them to fly across the country in the opposite direction, insane. For someone to do that today, they'd probably be demanding 10 million. Like,
Yeah.
it would never
that's what I'm
happen,
saying.
but
Like, it's not equal.
it's fucking wild.
It's not equal. No!
No?
It wasn't loading. It was
As
freezing.
soon as it became clear that Cooper was no longer on board, dozens of FBI agents converged
Why does that look like blood?
Oh, they're just a reflection of the tail.
Yeah, tell me that doesn't look like blood, though.
That looks like blood on the runway. It really does.
I
He
don't know why
jumped.
it's not showing my fucking mouse, but yeah. Bottom right next to the fucking closed captioning, it looks like blood. But he splattered on the ground, guys. Don't worry about it. We found him.
upon the aircraft, only to discover a disappointing amount of physical evidence. A black clip-on tie, 8 cigarette butts, and 2 of the 4 parachutes were all that Cooper left behind. Evidently, he'd brought the ransom and briefcase along with him. In interviews conducted on the night of the hijacking, Cooper was described by the crew and passengers as a white male with brown eyes and dark hair. He appeared to be in his mid-40s and wore a dark trench coat, a dark suit, a white shirt, a black tie, and dark shoes. Soon after boarding, he'd also donned a pair of sunglasses. Based on this description, the FBI produced the first of several composite sketches.
Just looks like a
Before they
Fed
could
boy.
mount a search, however, the FBI had to figure out when Cooper abandoned ship. But that was easier said than done. None of the 4 crew members witnessed Cooper jumping from the plane, nor did the pilots of 2 fighter jets which escorted the flight between Seattle and Reno, which is not all too surprising given it was the middle of the night. Although the flight crew did report something odd. The last communication with the hijacker occurred at approximately 8:05 p.m. when the crew used the intercom to offer assistance, which Cooper declined. Within the next 10 minutes, the crew experienced what they described as an oscillation or vibration of the aircraft. At the time, the crew suspected it might have been produced by Cooper's jump, and a subsequent recreation of the hijacking supported that conclusion. Okay, so that took care of the when, but what
But that doesn't make sense. The movement of somebody who's 200 pounds even, which they were saying that he's a smaller guy. So, like, I would assume like 6'1", maybe about like my weight, maybe like 160 pounds. I don't think that moves the entire aircraft, him jumping out of the plane.
It depends. They could have either felt turbulence from the
The
staircase
stairs
dropping
coming
itself.
down? Yes.
If that
but
wiggled a shitload when he jumped off of it, they might be able to feel that. If it's okay, if they said they had like 37 people on board, it was relatively small plane despite having 6 wide rows, like fucking columns of seating. But I don't know.
No, it was like a
They
full-size-
probably either felt the stairs going down or
That's
just
what I was
regular
gonna say.
turbulence and thought it was fucking him jumping. Like one or the other.
like them being able to tell the stairs coming down and when that happened would be the way to figure out exactly where the fuck he was. Like, it's not complicated. It's not rocket science to sit there and piece this shit together.
I find it surprising that even with a plane that old, they wouldn't have some sort of a warning light telling them when the stairs are down as well. Though it's weird.
Yeah.
What about the where? While Cooper was very explicit about the flight's configuration and destination, he never specified any kind of route. In fact, Cooper grew so impatient with the slow refueling in Seattle that he dismissed the captain's request to file a flight plan and simply told him to, quote, get the show on the road. As such, the captain chose to fly along an airway known as Victor 23 without any input from Cooper. By using Victor 23 as a guide, authorities estimated the most probable location of the flight at the approximated time of the jump was about 40 kilometers north of Portland. And so, at the break of dawn, the FBI mounted an impressive search operation using helicopters, airplanes, and ground troops. The problem was, even if the estimated bailout point was accurate, Cooper's eventual landing or drop zone was far more difficult to pinpoint. The loosely defined search area covered a vast stretch of mountainous wilderness occluded by a dense forest, so it was truly like finding a needle in a haystack. Apart from the difficult terrain, the search was further complicated by low temperatures and inclement weather, which persisted for days. Despite their best efforts, authorities never managed to find a single trace of Cooper, nor the items he'd brought along with him.
So that means you were in the wrong place. If there's snow, we both know there's fucking footprints everywhere. And if you're in a
Depends.
dense...
If they said it was still snowing at the time, it could have been covered pretty quickly, even within 12 hours.
But you're still going to see this disturbance. Like, if you shovel something or you walk through something, you'll still see those lines when the 6 feet of snow on top of it fall. It's going to be a trench going along where you walked. Like, that's what I'm saying. Is like, obviously, you were probably in the wrong place. You probably was either farther back or farther forward, depending on the timing of when he jumped. obviously
It's
that.
just still such a
Yeah.
crazy story to look back on, man. It's
Oh, I
fucking
know, I know.
insane.
I want to add value,
love it.
man. Like I want to add like the thought process of how they were able to figure this out but failed. Because like if we're just sitting here watching something, that's not really a reaction.
Having made little to no progress by early December, the FBI turned their attention to the $200,000 ransom. The money had been collected from the Seattle First National Bank, which maintained a ransom package of $250,000 just for such an occasion. Because of this, the serial numbers of the $10,020 banknotes given to Cooper had been
Are all
documented
noted.
in advance, a complete list of which were quickly made available to financial institutions, government agencies, and the general public. The intention was to make it as difficult as possible for Cooper to spend his money. Northwest Airlines and several newspapers even began to offer rewards to anyone who could find a note with a matching serial number. In spite of these efforts, no one ever did. That is until nearly a decade later. In early 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was building a campfire on a small beach in southern Washington. As he was digging into the sand, Ingram discovered 3 bundles of cash totaling $5,880. Having heard about the infamous skyjacking, Ingram's parents brought the severely degraded bundles to the FBI. The notes were promptly inspected, and sure enough, the serial numbers matched those of the ransom. Once the excitement subsided, however, the money managed to raise far more questions than it answered, the most significant of which was how? How did the money end up so far away from the drop zone? Looking at this map, it might be tempting to think that Cooper simply dropped some of the money, which then fell into the Lewis River. The bundles could then have been carried further downstream by the Columbia River before finally being washed ashore at Tina Bar, which is the name of the beach. Tina Mucklow, Tina Bar. Coincidence? Yeah, coincidence. Anyway, the problem with this idea is that the Columbia River flows in the opposite direction. This has led some, including members of the FBI, to re-evaluate the initial drop zone assessment. For instance, if the drop zone was much further southeast, close to a river called the Washougal River, it is conceivable, albeit improbable, that the money floated all the way down to Tina Bar. Alternatively, the bundles may have simply landed on the beach if the flight path was further to the west. Even so, natural explanations struggle to explain how 3 independent, potentially free-falling and/or free-floating bundles of cash ended up at the exact same place on the same beach.
No, they were
To complicate
buried.
matters,
They didn't fall
sediment
and
from
land
the
there.
riverbed was excavated and dumped onto Tina Bar as part of a dredging operation in 1974. And according to one analysis, the money was discovered above this layer of sediment. If true, that would mean the money came to rest at Tina Bar sometime after 1974. But a re-examination of that analysis found that what was believed to be a layer of deposited sediment might actually have been a perfectly natural layer of clay. Not only that, but the sediment was clearly dumped some distance away from where the money was discovered. Furthermore, when Ingram discovered the bundles, the rubber bands which held them together were still intact. This is significant because experiments conducted in 2009 revealed that this brand of rubber bands could not withstand exposure to open air or water for more than a year. So, unless the bundles were somehow protected from the elements, they must have become buried at Tina Bar within a year of the hijacking. The most probable explanation, therefore, seems to be that Cooper or someone else deliberately buried the money. Did Cooper survive and bury the money himself? Did someone else bury the money after stumbling upon Cooper's remains? If there is an explanation which does not require human intervention, it's managed to elude investigators for decades. Suffice it to say, this is a mystery within a mystery. Since Ingram's discovery in 1980, both Tina Bar and the grounds around the Washougal River have been subjected to numerous searches, but to date, there's been no sign of Cooper nor the rest of the money. From the very beginning, it was
So this shit's fucking interesting. It really fucking is. I love how this shit's broken up in fucking chapters. It makes doing this fucking easier.
Yeah, they did a good job on that.
Yeah, this shit's fucking beautiful. I think that he probably landed it in the river, if you want my honest opinion. It makes sense. The difference in the alternate drop zones and all that kind of stuff, they're not looking to the left. They're only looking to the right. They're only looking to the east. They're not looking to the west of what the actual drop zone they think was.
It was probably because of the wind at the time, I would only imagine, right? Most likely.
Well, flying is not a science. You can't sit here and say that it's guaranteed they went down this path when you don't fucking know. You're looking at black. Until you hit a city, and then there's light. Because sometimes the darkness shows you the light. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you think D.B Cooper did. I'm going to go piss before we do part 2. And make sure we're above
We're
1,000
going to start recording
subs.
in a few minutes, so
Yep.
we'll have part 2 coming your way pretty well as soon as this video is released.
Yeah, and that will be down in the description below. We'll see you fucking next time. And as always, we don't really